If I turn my mic on, hello and welcome to Formula Racing League. I am the face that is always known as the Pink Pig, and we're going to talk to you tonight about the driver rating within FRL, what it means, how it's calculated, and basically answer some of your questions as well. So we do have a schedule for tonight. You can see my face on screen, which is quite disturbing. For anyone, hopefully you've had your breakfast. So first on the agenda, we're going to talk about why driver rating. Then we're going to have a look over the overview of calcs per series and race results into the dashboard, which you see in front of you now. How often the driver ratings or driver ratings are updated, if there are any future plans, and have an opportunity to answer any of your questions. So hopefully you can join me throughout the stream, and hopefully it'll be a good one as well. So this has been something that has been required to happen for some time. Just want to check if I'm actually live. Yes, I am live. That's my face. Right, why driver racing first and foremost? So as you may or may not know, and as you can see on the screen, I am not the quickest driver in the world, and that gives me a different perspective because no problem at all, Tom. It gives me a different perspective because in a normal series of 30 cars, I wouldn't have a cat's in hell's chance of winning any races. But because of the driver rating system, FRL is split up into 4 categories. You've got the pros, which are essentially the aliens. You've got the silver drivers, which are the very, very quick drivers. You've got the pro-ams, which are the quick drivers, and then you've got the ams, which are your people who are generally new to the game, or are not the quickest drivers. And we all play this game to have fun. We don't play it for massive amounts of prize money. We don't do it as a job. We do it to have fun and relax. And there's a nice to have element which gives the ultimate aim to compete. If it wasn't for the driver rating system, I would not have 21 podiums. I would not have 4 wins. And those 2 championships would not exist. So thank you to the driver rating system. So it's helped because it gives every driver on PlayStation or PC hopefully something to compete with. There will be occasions where your driver rating gets bumped up into a higher class and you may struggle to compete, but those will be in the off seasons. Probably my favourite moment of the driver rating system was probably at Suzuka in the first race of the season in PC of the Masters and Rookies Championships, where the top 20 drivers for pros, silvers, pro-ams and ams were probably separated by less than a second, and that proved to me that the driver rating system works. So hopefully this podcast can go and help. You will see a number of spreadsheets because that's how the driver rating system is built. It's built on the wonderful world of Google Sheets, and you will see me talking through a lot of data. So please ask questions as we go on the way, and I'll endeavour to stop. So the first spreadsheet which you'll see is the dashboard supporting calculations, and the reason I'm showing you this is because every single race result which FRL has ever done, whether that be on PlayStation or PC, goes into this document, and this is the document that calculates all the results. There is a key component to the spreadsheet which I'm looking for now. There it is, which is this table by here. This table identifies what driver rating to assign drivers based on the series that they race in. So if you are a pro driver, the maximum you can get in qualifying is 10 points, and the minimum a driver can get in qualifying is 3 points. Within the race, the maximum they can get is 90 points, so those two added together equals 100, and the minimum a driver can get is 27 driver rating points, and those two added together for qualifying and your race creates your driver rating for that specific race. You will notice as we go down into silver category, that drops to a maximum of 80, and if you go into pro-ams, that drops to a maximum of 65. It should all work on mobile, but it is not the best, Michael, sorry. And if you go into AMS, then the maximum you can score is 50. As we start to go into races which have more than one race, then you'll start to notice that these numbers drop. So 29 and 29.5 and 29.5 added together will be a total race. So that calculation of 59 is dropped down, is split in half basically for the two races. You've also got the one-off races. So when we do Bathurst, and we do the Donkey Kong Mountain Race, then it's split into 4 categories. So then the rating is scored from that. If you do a one-off race, in a normal, for example, if you're doing the mystery box race on the 28th, or you do the Donington race on Thursday night, you will be classed within the pro category. So it opens you up to a maximum of 100 points or driver rating points you can get. So it is quite beneficial sometimes if you do those bigger, those one-off races. There are 2 ways to get an FRR license. The first of which is to complete the hot stint. So the hot stint has just recently switched over to Kyalami. So if you do the hot stint and your average of your 7 laps is quicker than the 41.4, then you go into the pro section, 42.4, go into silver, 43.4. You go into Pro-Am, and if you're quicker than a 2-minute 35, then you go into Am. If you're slower than 2-minute 35, I suggest you stop picking your nose. So that is then how drivers are split in via the hot stint. If you complete more than 4 FRL races, so you complete 4 one-off events, or you do the late night series as an example, once you've done your 4 races, you will also be assigned your driver rating. So you will be assigned a FRL license. So the values for the licenses, so the pro license is anything greater than a DR of 60. For the silver license is anything with a DR greater than 45 but less than 60. Pro-Am greater than 35 but less than 45, and Am is anything above 0. And again, just to reiterate, this is one of our core data sheets that exist. So we've got all our tracks, all the car logos, and all the country flags. Once you do, the reason why it's restricted, by the way, to 180, 65 and 50 is to stop drivers doing double jumps. So to prevent drivers from going an Am to a Pro or a Silver, which shouldn't really happen. You should only move by 1 class most each season. The reason behind is sometimes it's considered too great to go from an Am, as in Jordan May, who won the Am championship this year, was going to go to Silver, so we restricted it back to go into Pro-Am, just for the benefit of the driver and their longevity within FRL. So hopefully that gives a little bit explanation of why it's restricted, just to stop the jumps. This is again one of our master sheets that contains all the drivers' data. So for Alan Brizzle Brown, it contains his number, how many events he's done, how many races, and their category. There is a flag on the right hand side which identifies if that driver needs to be changed class during the season. There is an override which prevents the class from me being notified on there. So if they've been assigned a license, the override field automatically populates with yes, and therefore that will stay okay. Right, so race results. So the race results are always recorded in SimGrid. So we upload a JSON file into SimGrid, and this document is essentially a copy and paste from SimGrid of the qualifying. So we put some predefined criteria, so the date, the series, what season they're racing in, what round, what track, and then we copy in the data from SimGrid into the spreadsheet for qualifying. and we do the same for the race. You will notice that it records that it automatically brings through any driver that has DNF'd, so did not finish or did not start, and this is key. This is one of the key components to the calculations as well, which I'll explain more. I don't like seeing any driver with negative numbers, so I automatically override the penalty points that they receive from SimGrid into 0, because well, it's not nice seeing -10. So Mr. Gedman, hello James, hello Christopher. Next part of the calculation. So SimGrid recently changed their the way they bring through their names to include the SimGrid driver rating system. I'll explain why we don't use that shortly. So I've had to run an additional formula that basically strips that number out. The next part of the calculation is trying to figure out how many drivers have raced within that particular event. So you can see in qualifying there was 12, and in the race there was 19. And the reason behind 19 is because it's counting every single driver, even if they DNF'd or DNS'd. Okay, and again, that's key to the calculation that happens. So simple calculation in here is identifying what the difference should be. So simple of, oh gosh, it says simple. So it's calculation is the max minus the min divided by the number of drivers that took part in the race, and then this calculation is 6 minus 0.4, which gives that driver 5.6 for qualifying, and then that goes all the way down for every driver that competed in the race. And then for the race, in this case, so the difference was 2.631578947, or 2.6 if you're rounding. So the driver rating, the max driver rating that Adam could receive for this race is 59, so it drops down to 56.4. So as you notice, Danny McCutcheon finished the race. He didn't finish in first place or 10th place. He didn't finish in first or last place. He finished last of the drivers that finished. However, the key thing is Danny finished the race. So he gets so Danny gets rewarded in this case by having a driver rating score of 32.7. You will notice Steen just below has a driver rating of 0. Losers rage quit. If I'm perfectly honest. So you shouldn't have. So we restrict the driver rating, which a driver who DNF from the race, down to 0 for the race, and therefore Steenwood has gained. Did he do qualify? No, he didn't do qualify. So here's Steen gained. Oh yeah, he did. So he gained 3.1 for the race, and then 3.1 for qualifying, and then 0 for the race. So Steen's driver rating for that race will be 3.1. Mr. Woodward. No Belgium got. That was the Belgian disconnect. Yes, sorry. Specific examples. So Neil Woodward had scored 4.8 for qualifying and then 51.1 for the race. So Neil's driver rating was 55.9 for that event. So that's how the driver rating gets worked through. So if there's 2 races, for example, in the night, then these figures would be divided by 2, so 29.5, and then the score would be split across the 2 races. There's a bunch of other stuff which identifies the date and the track for other analysis, which I conduct in the background, and also identifies whether it's a PlayStation or a PC race. So that's how a driver rating gets worked out. That once a driver has done more than 15 races, we're going to go into, surprise, we're going to go into another Google Sheet. So if a driver's completed between 0 and 4 races, then they need to do the hot stint. If they've done 4 or more races, then their driver rating takes over. Once a driver has completed 15 races, they go into what's called dynamic DR. So for drivers who have done a fair few races, shall we say, so if we pick on, we'll pick on Alan again. Where are you, Alan? AWL. Let's just do me. There we go. So I have done 163 races in FRL. If it was down to just if it was just down to DR, my DR would be 43.9 based on every race I've done in FRL. However, if we just take into account my last 15 races, which I have been poo, then it starts to make a more accurate reflection on my ability at the time. So the dynamic DR only takes into account the driver's last 15 races. So you can see I was quite good here, and then I started to get crap again. So my DR starts to dip down. So this part good, this part bad, this part okay, this part bad, but it only takes into account my last 15 races, just purely to make that DR move. And also, if you can imagine, Alex Zachtel, as an example, started off in the rookies and now has escalated to one of the top pros. So he shouldn't have the rookies races, which had restricted DR, stopping his DR from getting higher and higher. So it only takes into account his or anyone else's last 15 races in Formula Racing League. So if we then start to talk around the wondrous dashboard in a bit, so hopefully that's explained how why driver rating has happened, an overview of the calculations and the per series splits, explains why it's been restricted, how the race results go in. So now we are on to the dashboard section of the conversation. So in terms of the dashboard, I think it's quite helpful, and I do go into it from time to time, but it shows a couple of key components. Shows the number of races the drivers competed in. If you have your patron number, then that appears in here. How the total number of points I've scored since I've been in FRL, and I've been here for a long time. How many, what my current PC incident points are, my PlayStation incident points are, the nationality, from Wales of course, my status on PC, so what classification I am, how many wins I've managed to achieve. If I am one of those drivers that goes cross-console onto PlayStation, then it shows my PlayStation status, number of DNFs, boo, I had 3 last night, so that was 1 before. Number of podiums I've managed to achieve, the total number of laps driven, how many championships, top 10s, and if there's been any change, both positive and negative, in terms of my driver rating. It also shows my PC driver rating, my PlayStation driver rating if I had one, and my rFactor 2 driver rating. Shows your total car usage, and that is cross-game. So it shows your top 5 cars. I love these speedometers, which shows the total number of wins percentage, podiums, top 10s, and DNFs. Shows all my races that have been recorded within Formula Racing League on PC, PlayStation, or rFactor 2. I did not have a good night last night. Then shows my ACC personal fastest laps on each track and what car I used. Shows my rFactor 2 fastest laps and what track I've used. No idea why that's just populated with rFactor 2s. And then this bit. So if you go into your driver name selection, if you choose a track in here, so we're going to go for Monza. Then what these will show is all the Pro-Am lap times based on the category, or based on your personal category. Shows that splits lap times at that track with the times you should be aiming for, and also on PlayStation as well. You then have the overall lap records for PC, PlayStation, and then rFactor 2 as well. So where's last night? I can't remember where last night's race isn't on there, but it does show the fastest laps at each track which has been competed on within each console. there are a bunch of calculations that sit behind it, as you can imagine. So there is this horrible sheet which shows my driver rating, my wins, my DNFs, percentages, example, the total, each car that exists, and how many laps I've done, whether it's team, race 1, solo, new team, RF2, or total. Then the next part is to sort the formula. This then works out my driver rating, so it's just a sort of the date and what rating I've managed to score and how many races, and then this then splits out into the next part. So this is one of the calculation sheets that support FRL, and then you also get visibility within the tracker to look at the active license points that have been assigned against each driver, and you probably, you can. You can also see the active license points that are available for each driver as well. So please don't destroy those. Okay, so driver rating itself is updated at the end of each season on PC. So you are able to achieve a driver rating by doing the hot stints beforehand. If you've already got a driver rate, if you've already got an FRL license, it's updated at the end of each season. So we've just finished season 11 in Masters and season 9 in Rookies, so the licenses have just been updated for those respective series. Someone's gone in and is checking their driver rating now, so that is Dan Davis, who's going in to check his driver rating. So pros, it shows a lot of data. Cons, only one person is able to go in there at a time to be able to view their driver rating. So yeah, so you can see the pole lap times, instant tracking, quali band tracking, active pen points for both PC and PlayStation, updated at the end of each season. It should be NA at the moment, but there is I do show a sheet that I issue out at the end of each season, which shows before the final race of the season, which shows where and how ratings will be changed and to what class. In terms of future plans for the driver rating system, I personally would love to be able to get this into a better process of managing large amounts of data. So I'd like to get kind of a push and pull mechanism going within a database that exists. Also automatically downloading the data from SimGrid using an API, which hopefully be released in the not too distant future, but mainly to stop the reliance on Google spreadsheets and move towards a database style system. And also, I would like to eventually implement a strength of field calculation. So if you're racing against drivers with a higher FRL driver rating, then and you perform quite well, then you should receive more DR based on your predicted finishing position, should we say. So that's in terms of future plans. I haven't seen many questions coming in, so just having a look. Hi fella, does all of this work on mobile? I had to go one time and couldn't get it working. So Michael, it does work on mobile, but it's a bit crap, and that's purely down to the amount of data that exists in the Google Sheets, and it struggles. So always best to try on PC. Would love to try and get it into an app. I think Will managed to do it previously for the PlayStation Hall of Fame. So might be something we can look into in the future. Christopher Gedman says, my daughter Darcy says hello. Well, hello, Darcy. Woody says, good evening, Mr. FRL's database. Hello. It's a sad situation I've managed to get in when I declare FRL driver rating as my life's work. Brizzle says, hello, everyone. Lean says, hi James. Hello Lean. Nice speaking to you the other day. And my class, Woody says, my class needs double checking. Think there is a formula mistake. No, there was not. You are Silver. Get stuck to it. And Unorthodox does, which is Dan Davis. I need to go back to ACC PC. Well, we missed you last night in R Factor 2. So we'll give everyone a minute or two to ask any further questions. Hopefully I've managed to explain Formula Racing League's driver rating. So the key aspects of it is basically how you perform in the race. Yes, I assumed it was Dan, sorry. It's how you perform in each race. So before any season starts, we do a download of the entry list and we identify if a driver is in the correct class, and we move all the drivers around, and we do that for masters and rookies. We also have for endurance. So endurance for next season is going to a pro and an AM class. So this is a download of the entry list from SimGrid, identifying the groups of drivers that do not have a driver rating, and then split the teams into pro, silver and AM. So it gives them a score which gets to show, based on the entry list which I've downloaded, that there will be 13 pro teams, 4 AM teams and 16 no rating teams. Yes, I don't like you, Neil. That's absolutely fine. So then it gives an identification of the 80 drivers which are in the spreadsheet. How many are pro, silver, pro am, and am, and then how many have no rating. So it helps us identify where the peaks and troughs are in terms of the entries into each series and how the driver rating potentially might need to be updated. So those drops in images in terms of those splits between 60, 45, 35 and 0 can be adjusted depending on which drivers have signed up to a series. If we're low in pros, then we could adjust that from a 60 to a 58, or if we're low in AMs, then we could up the 35 lower limit for Pro Am to maybe a 40. I'm not sure if you have, Christopher. I can't remember changing a role. I might never do it. But okay, so yeah, hopefully that's answered your questions. If you do have any questions, open a PC ticket in terms of your driver rating, and hopefully we'll be able to explain. This video will always be live on YouTube, so you can go in and have a watch at any time. But hopefully you've enjoyed the stream. I certainly have, and thank you very much, and good night.